one thing that's really fantastic about working at Heathrow Airport as an innovation manager is that I can actually see the tangible differences that I make whenever it comes to innovation projects in the terminal and how they impact the passengers that use the terminal. And it makes me, almost selfishly, I guess, but it makes me feel really proud of the work I've completed. And, it's nice to actually wake up and see that you're going to make an impact on somebody's day as they're going on holiday, as they're going on a business trip, or even just impacting the employees that we have in the airport as well to make their lives easier. My sort of interest in corporate life and corporate creativity through innovation has always come from Disney and Walt Disney. And I think that a really good quote that I love that my dad's been telling me since I was a baby is that it's kind of fun to do the impossible. And I love that innovation management facilitates more ability in a corporate life to try the impossible, to ask the question why, to be able to actually develop something that from the ground up, and really, be it the role like Oli mentioned, or the actual project that we work on a day-to-day basis, how that value add can be driven from nothing and from the impossible to something that actually makes a difference is seriously what I love about being an innovation manager. And that culture is what I would love to instill on other people to really have that opportunity to do that as well.
You are listening to The Standard Show, the podcast that brings you the stories behind the standards with Matthew Chiles and Cindy Paragill.
Hello, this is Matthew Chiles and welcome to The Standard Show, the podcast that brings you the stories behind the standards. Now, it's not the usual, hey, Cindy Paragill, but instead it's, hey, Emma Glass.
Hey, Matthew Chiles.
Now, I checked, Emma, and it's been a little while since you were last on The Standard Show, but it's great to have you back.
Oh, thank you, Matthew. It's great to be back.
And the reason you are back is because of the subject of this episode, which is innovation management, innovation culture, and their relationship to standards. And because, Emma, of what you do at BSI.
Yes. So I am leading on BSI's innovation policy and our engagement work with innovation bodies and innovators. So particularly how we engage with the next generation of young professionals and innovators. And of course, also working on all things innovation with colleagues across the organisation.
Now, generally, Emma, why is innovation important to us?
Innovation is really important to us at BSI and, of course, for standards. So this is because standards accelerate innovation by providing a common framework for developers and manufacturers to work within, reducing uncertainty, promoting interoperability between different products, and really building trust in new technologies, which ultimately allows for faster adoption and market penetration of innovative solutions.
I mean, you mentioned young professionals there, and this episode really, it's your conversation with three of those young professionals.
Yes, so I spoke to three fantastic young professionals working in innovation management. So we had Oli Kelland, who is the AI lead for Europe and the Middle East at Mott MacDonald, the engineering and development company. We had then Xilin Dai, who is a project manager and innovation coordinator, also from Mott MacDonald. And then joining Oli and Xilin is the voice you heard at the top of the episode, which was that of Chris Catney, so innovation manager at Heathrow Airport. And Chris was talking there about his role in innovation management with, of course, a little bit of a Disney influence thrown in too, Matthew.
There was indeed. Now, why bring this particular group together?
So, Matthew, we were actually bringing this group back together. So back in November 2024, BSI co-hosted Innovation Day at the Design Museum in partnership with Innovate UK. And this was such a wonderful opportunity to bring together innovators and innovation managers from a range of sectors. And Oli, Chris and Xilin were the expert panelists who joined me to talk about one of the 8 principles of ISO 56001 Innovation Management Systems, which is about innovation culture. And I wanted to bring them back together for the Standards Show because it was, for that particular session, there was so much energy and so much enthusiasm for what the amazing work that they were doing. So yes, this was a real opportunity to get the dream team back together. And Matthew, of course, before I forget, there will be more details on Innovation Day 2025 coming very soon. So please do keep an eye out for that. Now, off the back of the 2024 event, we have established a LinkedIn group, the Society for Innovation Management in the UK. And I'm really pleased to say we have over 140 members. So I would encourage listeners to join the growing community there as well.
Nice. And there is a link to that group in the show notes. Now, before we get into the conversation, you mentioned that important relationship between innovation and standards.
Yes, so standards really lay the groundwork for collaboration, enabling innovators to build on existing technologies and also really drive progress. And to help with this, BSI works very closely with Innovate UK, the UK's national funding agency, and which we have done for a number of years now on a wide range of initiatives. So things like the Future Flight Programme, which is all about creating new air vehicles through standards, the new Bridge AI programme, which helps businesses unlock AI's potential. And we're also working with Innovate UK on projects specifically aimed at developing tools and resources for SMEs, such as the Business Growth Toolkit. And of course, Matthew, as you know, we have the standards themselves. So I mentioned ISO 56001 for innovation management systems, but this is just one of the standards in the 56,000 innovation management series. And there are so many more for everybody, all our listeners to have a look at.
Yes, again, details of that series in the show notes. So, Emma, this conversation with Chris, Xilin and Oli, what will we hear?
Well, Matthew, first off, what a wonderful conversation that we had. And for me, the passion and the drive of these three young professionals working in innovation management was what really shone through. And equally, I think how forward-looking all three of them are in this conversation. So they're all thinking about how they can support the next generation of innovation managers and make sure that this is really a community and an area where others kind of know they can fly the flag about it and kind of excite those coming into it further down the line as well. I think the second thing that really came through in the conversation that we had was thinking about how we look to professionalize innovation management. So, just as we have done with the quality management, for example, and of course, this is a real demonstrator of the impact and the legacy that the standards work and this amazing community of innovation managers that we have can really demonstrate and provide.
Nice. Now, before we hear Emma's conversation with Chris, Oli and Xilin, here's Cindy with a quick reminder.
This is Cindy Parakill here with a reminder that you can rate, review, and subscribe to The Standard Show wherever you get your podcasts. And you can get in touch and find and follow us on social media too. All the details are in the show notes.
So, Chris Catney is an innovation manager at Heathrow Airport, where he successfully manages high-profile innovation projects. Xilin Dai is Mott MacDonald's project manager and innovation promoter. Xilin promotes innovation not only within her APD transportation portfolio, but also across Mott MacDonald. And also from Mott MacDonald, Oli Kelland leads innovation initiatives around visualization, intelligence retrievals, machine learning, and generative artificial intelligence. I started by asking Oli, for him, what is an innovation culture?
I feel every time someone asks me this, my answer changes because it's quite difficult to pin down what culture is. Therefore, I think actually, from my perspective, what's more appropriate is actually to say why innovation culture.
Okay.
And for me, why innovation culture is because I am sort of the junior member of staff in this organization of many thousands of people. Innovative culture enables me to sort of feel safe and confident when I find something and I'm like, hey, why are we doing it like this? What could we change? Could this be better? It helps me to reach out to those senior colleagues and say, hey, I think we can do this a little bit differently. And what is the innovative culture here? It's the ability for them to not just kind of say, oh, well, who's this person I don't know who's sort of junior in the org coming to me and saying that we're doing something not as good as it could be. It's they then feel that they have, they want to talk to me. They want to say, hey, okay, you've suggested something. What is it? How do you think it could work? And the innovative culture goes further. It then sort of enables us to explore it and see if we can actually build on it, implement it, gain value from it.
You make such an interesting point around kind of, creating that safe space almost to have, I think part of that really feeds into it, to have those kind of conversations and feel that you can, go to senior leaders within your organization as well. So that's really, really interesting. Chris, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that really, and kind of any follow up that you had to Oli's point.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's sort of it's similar with Oli. That I think my mindset with what an innovative culture kind of changes every time that I think about it, which ultimately is sort of encompasses the ideology of innovation. Is you iterate your mentality around it as much as you iterate the projects you're working on. I was sort of thinking about from an Innovation Day back last year, the thoughts that I went through. And I think it's probably still consistent. And I wrote down, and I found my notes from before our talk, that a space for anyone across the business to work is on a particular business problem where their perspectives and opinions are all relevant. So what I mean by that is that it's essentially it's taking someone in my role, similar to Oli, one of the younger people in my team, that's very much focused on projects and innovation projects and trying to improve different capabilities, but also having the ability to sort of take in the ideas that are relevant to people who maybe be security guards who are working shift work, right up to our CEO. And especially considering all the news with Heathrow Airport in the last few weeks with the third runway and the expansion, etc., we have to have a culture of innovation to be able to drive that change we want to see in the next 10, 15 years to facilitate, the airport across Europe. So for me, it's having the ability to take in all those ideas that where you're standing in your experience isn't relevant, and the ideas you're presenting are creative and drive towards a positive value add for the entirety of the airport and ultimately for the people who use it. And I think that's consistent across any business. I used to work for Virgin Media as well before I joined Heathrow Airport, and you are very, very different. We weren't providing a service, or more providing a product. And it's those ideas that are relevant from a salesperson to an engineer right up to the CEO. But ultimately, how can they benefit the person who's actually utilizing the service, and making sure that the innovative ideas you're developing are not just for the individuals in the actual business, but they're ultimately for the customers who use your service. So it's I guess like Oli said, it's sort of takes in all different ideas and ideologies, and I love it. I think that's what's so good about innovation culture, because it is so iterative, not only in its practice but also in its definition.
And Xilin, what is innovative culture to you, and how is that reflected in your day-to-day work and your approaches?
Yeah, thanks, Emma. Also, just to echo what Oli and Chris just said, I think every time people ask me what exactly the innovation culture stuff, I'm kind of like consistently not say change my mind, but because I'll probably from different angle to points and to answer this type of question. Because apart from my daily job, I'm also kind of like the career mentor to support the current upcoming student. For me, this kind of like the innovation culture is kind of like this type of the glue, which drives innovation. And I personally believe this is also fostering the collaboration and the learning style, especially I as a young professional for my company, and also kind of like acting as kind of like career mentor to support upcoming students for the university and the industry. It's kind of like essential to provide this kind of like essential support to this next generation, especially kind of like give the upcoming student for this kind of like type of mentoring support, and also create safe space to allow everyone to speak up in terms of the innovation stuff. Particularly back to my current secondment role at Stansted Airport staff, I'm also acting as a innovation champion to provide support to my client, and also bring this kind of like thought back to my university just to find out the industry gap. So that's for me, this is type of the innovation culture is more tying to the collaborative way to work together. So that's my thought.
Standards affect all of us every day, wherever we go, whatever we do. By defining good practice, they help people and organizations to do things better. Each year, standards bodies publish thousands of standards, and we are looking for more people like you to join our community of standards makers. We welcome applicants from all fields, backgrounds, and career stages. Our goal is a simple one: to have a balance of views around the table. By becoming a standards maker, you could help to improve the way things are made and done, like creating healthier and more inclusive workplaces, developing higher quality healthcare systems, making advances in AI governance, or accelerating climate action, and many, many others. So, if you want to make a difference and shape the world through standards, start your standards making journey now. Details of how to do so are in the show notes.
So it's interesting because you all kind of drew on this kind of this idea of kind of that equality and everybody having an opportunity to voice their views and their opinions within that kind of innovative culture. And also, of course, then you all kind of drew on your own experiences, which leads really nicely onto our second question, which is thinking about how does that resonate with you as a young professional in innovation management. And Oli, I'm gonna come to you first on this because I think you made some interesting starting points about, when you're going to your CEO, your senior leadership and being like, why should you listen to me? And of course, then it relates to how we're creating a space within the working environment that is, open and provides that safety net almost. So Oli, coming to you first, how does that resonate with you as a young professional in innovation management?
Yeah, thank you, Emma. So I guess using an example from when I first joined Mott back in sort of September 2021 as a fresh new grad out of university, just done my master's in civil engineering, super interested to get stuck into sort of the professional world. I started within our highways division, actually, working on some concrete roads. And there was initially an ask for myself to look at the process we were using, which was actually being updated from just essentially people walking on the road to spot defects to utilizing machine learning to have essentially traffic speed imagery around the various detection of potholes, cracks, etc. And it was given, a task was given to myself as I was sort of very clearly as this digitally curious person for how we best help the information within the kind of web pages be displayed. Very, very simple ask from the clients. Pretty much everything was already outlined for what they wanted us to do and wanted us to advise on. But with a sort of innovative mindset, was looking at this and sort of went away one evening, came back and said, hey, actually, I think we can redo a lot of this much, much better for the benefits of all of the stakeholders utilizing this. The project lead at the time was very much I don't want to spend too much time here, but I like your energy. I'm interested to see what you can do. So it allowed me sort of to spend a few ideas to kind of come up with some simple little imagery diagrams, etc. Slightly luckily, he then went on leave for about a week. So I was essentially untamed for about a week until he came back. For me,
now's my chance.
Yeah, very much so. So he came back and I gave him a fully sort of hyperlinked set up PowerPoint deck where every single page of this website was now an interactive page on PowerPoint. And it's essentially completely rebuilt it in a very sort of scrappy way, but good enough to be able to demonstrate what it was. I think that's me is why sort of this, innovation culture really resonates is I was given an opportunity to kind of explore a bit further in a kind of contained way. Yeah. And then from that, we essentially advised a lot of stuff. A client was very happy at the time with these revised approaches, but also it then gave me, I guess, additional confidence to continue doing this, continue looking at, okay, what are the other things we're starting to do? And that got me into writing internal innovation business cases, which then ultimately has got me to the role I have at present. And it's also helped me go to our other sort of junior staff who are clearly also demonstrating similar interest about why things are done as they are and how they could get in place, as young professionals. And it's very much, myself sort of providing this view that your role is only sort of the role that someone else has made a description for. The actual delivery of it, the actual running of it is down to you. Therefore, there's a lot of, you need to be confident to not just do what's on paper, but kind of do what's needed for roles and shape it as you see fit. And therefore, more and more, especially within our early career professional network, we have a very simple role description for people, but then sort of expect people to, I think as Chris kind of alluded to, kind of innovate as you go for it, so that the outcomes are the best outcomes, because you are the person who'd see it and therefore be the person who's able to innovate on it.
Yeah. No, I think that's such a good point. And I love, Oli, the fact that you know, there was an opportunity, you saw something could be changed and you were like, right, I'm going to run with it. This is the time. And I don't know about you guys, but I always feel, you know, the things that are like slightly outside of your comfort zone within your job, or things that, you know, are slightly challenging, they are always the most rewarding. And I think, Oli, as you were saying, it's about kind of pushing the limits of what your role is and seeing where you can take that. So I think that's a real positive. So I think on that, Chris, I don't know whether you have any, you know, stories, anecdotes to share of where you're kind of pushing the boundaries or thinking about how this kind of idea of innovative culture resonates with you in as a young professional coming up in the innovation world.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love what Ollie said about the job title is only something that somebody else wrote for you. It's how you actually practice it. Because slight tangent, because as you guys know, and anybody probably listens to this knows, I can talk for Ireland, and I love talking about this stuff in general. But my first innovation manager role was a completely brand new role for the area I was in. And it was, the job description was pretty much succinct in terms of what innovative project management should look like. But I basically started on my day one thinking I knew what I had to do. And after the end of the first week, I was like, right, okay, I'm going to have to basically do this shape this to an extent by myself. My initial remit was go and develop this all from the ground up. And, you know, I think that's exactly what Ollie said really, really resonated with me, because I had to do that practically as an innovation manager. I think that the interesting thing about, you know, innovative cultures and how it does resonate with me is that where we are as young professionals in this space is that I want to be an innovation manager for the vast majority of my career if I can, Emma. And I think that we're at the center of what is still a very young profession, and how we can influence that is, and how it resonates with me in that sense, is our ability to develop it and to shape it into what it could be a bit more, with the support of the ISO 56001 and all the work that the teams have done in that to create that. How we actually shape it is probably going to impact it more in almost the standards that are there, and how that actually practices in my day to day, and what innovation means to me and how it resonates with me. I think actually on the day I completely ended up botching this question on whenever during our innovation day. So I was really, really excited to actually talk about it a bit more practice, because it's super, super key for me. Like I didn't want to become. Whenever I was 12 years old, I didn't sit there thinking I want to work in a corporate world. You know, like I think I mentioned that I wanted to be a professional footballer. I wanted to be an actor, all that stuff. So whenever I got older, went through my GCSEs, A levels, went to university, and I recognized that for me to actually develop a bit of a legacy, I'm going to have to go down a corporate world. And as it shaped out, whenever I graduated from university, I got onto the sales grad scheme at Virgin Media. And I remember sitting there, and I think sales is a really, really difficult profession. But I remember sitting there after the first couple of weeks thinking, this is just not for me in the slightest. You know, I had this sort of creative mind of things that I saw that I wanted to do different or change, and I had no space to do it. And because there was no space for, you know, there was nowhere to go and present my ideas because we were so sales driven, it was very numbers oriented, etc. And it had to be, because that's the nature of the game. As my sort of the 2 years of my grad scheme progressed, I then ended up getting into continuous improvement roles. And then that's whenever I moved into an innovation management role, because I saw that innovation was the most, in my opinion, it is the most creative space in corporate life. And it allowed me to sort of develop that degree of creativity. And also I had such an interest in you know, technology and how technology influenced our day-to-day lives as you as people in society. And that allowed me to sort of scratch that itch too. I mentioned legacy, and one other thing I wanted to mention is that whenever I retire, I obviously want to look back and be proud of what I've achieved. And I think one thing that's really fantastic about working at Heathrow Airport as an innovation manager is that I can actually see the tangible differences that I make whenever it comes to innovation projects in the terminal and how they impact the passengers that use the terminal. And it makes me, almost selfishly, I guess, but it makes me feel really proud of the work I've completed. And, it's nice to actually wake up and see that you're going to make an impact on somebody's day as they're going on holiday, as they're going on a business trip, or even just impacting the employees that we have in the airport as well to make their lives easier. And I think that anybody who knows me knows my sort of interest in corporate life and corporate creativity through innovation has always come from Disney and Walt Disney. And I think that a really good quote that I love that my dad's been telling me since I was a baby is that it's kind of fun to do the impossible. And I love that innovation management facilitates our ability in a corporate life to try the impossible, to ask the question why, to be able to actually develop something that from the ground up, and really be it the role like Oli mentioned, or the actual project that that we work on a day-to-day basis, how that value add can be driven from nothing and from the impossible to something that actually makes a difference is seriously what I love about being an innovation manager. And that culture is what I would love to instill on other people to really have that opportunity to do that as well.
Thank you, Chris. And that's so lovely. I think, I really back the thinking that the kind of impact and seeing the impact that the work that you are doing is having can be such a powerful thing. And knowing that you have that kind of purpose is driving you, I think is, really powerful and resonates a lot with, not just young professionals, but anybody. I think is such a strong thing. Mm-hmm. I also love the quote that your dad has been saying to you for a long time. I think we shall make sure to have some sort of Disney reference in our in all of our podcasts going forward. I think that's important.
Too right.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, so Xilin, coming over to you next. And you may, I know you do so much work with kind of in terms of your mentoring, career mentoring for students that are coming through from particularly the University of Birmingham. But yeah, how does that resonate with you and thinking about, I think there's so much here from the conversation that we're having around, what we as early career professionals can then be doing to support and galvanize the next generation of individuals coming through to innovation management. So Xilin, I feel like you're very much at the forefront of this. So speak to us a bit more about that.
So personally, I don't know, just to echo what Oli and Chris just said before. So personally, I do feel as a young professional working for this kind of a new industry area for innovation, we can make so much changes to influence the next generation. And at some point, I always forgo I'm a young professional because I don't think my power is limited. It's that's kind of like quote I believe I can make difference, and this is exactly I pass to the current mentee I'm mentoring at the University of Birmingham, because it's kind of like you always need to kind of put yourself in that kind of not put yourself in the box. It's basically for me, one of the key messages is a full of a possibility in the world, and then also we are kind of like the next generation, especially for myself, to step in front of line to guide them to say, no matter how small the things you make, it can make so much difference as part of this industry. So using my kind of like personal cases, that reminds one of my previous kind of like student mentee. He's now be the kind of like entrepreneur to set up his innovation company or doing this stuff. But during the mentorship back 2 years ago, he always kind of like really appreciate the support I give to him to bring him into this innovation part. For me, it's kind of like I'm personally really passionate about innovation, and then it's kind of like reflect my ability to stay ahead of the industry, to pass this guidance between the upcoming students, and let them to really think about innovation stuff. I think that's kind of like very key for me, and then particularly to translating this into the actionable strategy, and then to let the student to understand what industry needs from innovation perspective. In the meantime, also bring students thought and bring the lecture thought into the industry. So I'm kind of like between this kind of like go-to person, being the glue between academia and the industry. So that's one of the things I want to highlight.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I think that's such important work as well, because from the work that I have done previously with academics, it's about, there's so much value in the research that's going on in that space, and then making sure that that is then translated across is so important. So well done to you, Xilin, for kind of collaborating and working with students and getting them excited about, the potential for working in innovation. And also the fact that I think innovation, as we all know, it's such that nobody kind of comes to innovation management directly out of university. So I think there's value in kind of presenting it to students at that stage as an opportunity, and thinking about how it resonates with them. So my final question to my wonderful speakers today is basically, for our audience listening right now, if you could have one ask of them, what would it be? So we're thinking about how do we kind of galvanize the next generation of young professionals to work in innovation management, to be excited about working in innovation management. How do we encourage everyone to make it such a kind of safe space and a good culture to be in? And Oli, I'm going to come to you first. What is your call to action for our audience today?
I feel from the discussion we've had today, actually, we've had lots of discussions around having, various things in place, doing things appropriately, aligning to standards, etc. But there's this kind of underlying that you need the individual to be interested, motivated, curious, to really sort of bring this enhanced value or ability to kind of break through within the innovation space. Therefore, I feel a call to action from myself would be to say, everyone who's in the innovation space, one of the key responsibilities in your role should be around essentially just setting up means to increase serendipity across the organization for your people. What do I mean by that? Serendipity as the kind of positive luck, really. Mm-hmm. So I feel while we can have sort of, here's an innovation challenge, we'd like you to aspire to provide an efficiency in this space. People who are already thinking about this don't really need the challenge. The challenge is just a route to kind of funnel people down. Therefore, like using an example from Mott MacDonald, within our ECP network, our career professional network, we've essentially every one of our divisions, units, and most of our regions have what's referred to as our innovation ECP lead. They have a reasonably informal role, but their ability is to kind of have this more kind of interpersonal connection across the various areas of our organization, and to be this point of contact where someone's saying, hey, I think I've got an idea here, for them to megaphone it, and for them to be able to navigate a lot of kind of background process or governance, etc., to help things move along, or to connect things as well where other regions are doing something they might not have the visibility of. Increase serendipity. Allow the people who are going to go out of their way to do stuff to do it in an easy way, and then through that, by nature of it being serendipitous, you have to appreciate some of it won't work, some of it will not succeed, some of it might look a bit strange or unnice in a corporate environment. I know from the engineering profession, we are very bad at dealing with what if something can go wrong. There's very much this feeling of nothing can go wrong. We will only do things which we can see will work, or there's going to be a very minimal downside if it does go wrong. I think there's a challenge needed here, that if you have individuals who are passionate, actually linking into like Napoleon back in the day with his armies, he used to continue this theme of having quotes actually today. He used to quote that a passionate or a motivated army is about 3 times the size of one that isn't. I'd say so of internal staff. If you've got people who are trying to be passionate about things, it will change the downside. Yes, it will probably change the originally intended outcome, but the people will be passionate enough that they'll still want their thing to succeed, that they'll still want it to be valuable, even if it isn't the original outcome. So yeah, let people explore what they're passionate about. It should be hopefully serendipitous.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Oli. And I love that in this discussion today we've covered Disney, Napoleon. Like, okay, so no pressure, Xilin and Chris. Yeah, but you've got to somehow up the ante for the final section. So, and thank you, Oli. I think you made some really wonderful points. And yeah, I agree. I think it does then come back round to this idea of like, what kind of space are you creating within your organization to, encourage that as well. So really interesting. Right, Chris, over to you. You've got one final call to action from our audience today. What are you asking them?
Yeah, I think I was just quickly Googling in the background there, what did Sir Alex Ferguson say about innovation, but unfortunately I couldn't find it.
We're gonna get Man United in here as well.
Somehow, yeah, I have to. But yeah, I think my from our innovation day when we spoke about this and the amount of times I've spoken about it, I think people can probably recognize that I like the fact that an innovation space for individuals who are part of it can be fun. And the primary call to arms that I continue to make is to ensure that whenever people are part of innovation projects, if it's not part of their day to day, to ensure that it is a enjoyable, creative space that they can enjoy. And this concept of like I mentioned in my previous whatever answer was around the opportunity to leave something that's fulfilling. It's that your own personal legacy that you're actually getting to see, but also being able to enjoy it while you're actually developing it. I previous role in I want to just sort of mention a couple of different mentors of mine that I've worked with, Sarah Kelly and Colin Nelson, two in particular. They're the people who really made me recognize that innovation management can be something to be enjoyed, and particularly through a program that Sarah ran with me and was around bringing groups of people from across the business into a 2-day session to teach them through the innovation management process, from problem statement to iteration to validation to pitching the concept to senior leadership. And honestly, the feedback that we always got was just how much fun it was to be part of it. But then from that, we got really brilliant ideas that drove value for particular problem statements in those people's areas. And it was educating them to be able to actually take their problems that they see, stop moaning about them, and actually start to develop consistent ideas that were beneficial to the business. And I think the concept of serendipity is a really key one, but creating that serendipitous position doesn't need to be something that is hardcore practice. It doesn't need to be cold and calculated. It can be enjoyable. And I think as well, with that in mind, because people who actually have problem statements and you care about these things enough to partake in these programs, they are educated about who they're wanting to innovate for. And I think a really key element of something that I think people need to take on board, that is that you not just only make it fun, but be aware of who you're innovating for ultimately. I mentioned earlier on that I think it's a really key element for us is that I'm super passionate about passenger experience through Heathrow Airport, and I really have that in mind whenever I run any of my projects or trials. And I think that's something that people need to be aware of is if you're innovating for your stakeholders in a particular business area, if you're innovating for young professionals and graduates who are coming through that are new in your business, or even if you're innovating for people who've been there for 30 years, actually knowing what their needs are is really, really key to driving value. And by doing that and giving them a space that's fun and giving them a new space, I think ultimately you're going to really drive towards a fantastic space for people to feel innovative and to feel fulfilled again in what they're actually delivering.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chris. So Xilin, to conclude our session for today, we are coming to you. And I think it's worth noting as well, and I've said this many times, Xilin received a round of applause mid-panel when she delivered this. So no pressure, Xilin. But yeah, what would be your kind of call to action for everybody involved in innovation management?
Thanks, Emma, again. I think personally, just completely agree with what Oli and Chris just said. I think my call to action today, I think still acting as what I just passed through last year Innovation Day. Because for me, this is one of the key messages I learned from my mentee. Because I did not realize how small experience I share with the upcoming student and also my colleagues and my leads as part of being the innovation champion because this kind of like smaller experience I share with the students or my colleagues and my leadership team, which just makes so much difference. Because this is exactly the conversation what I had with my mentee. He said to me, I did not realize how valuable your experience involved with the innovation makes my mindset complete change. Because when he was a student, he saw he's not got any experience to get in touch base with innovation stuff. That's kind of like reminds me, just don't be hesitate to share any experience you do through your companies, your universities, through what actually any organization you have been working as innovation management, to anyone which is very passionate about, because you never know what kind of like difference you make to the next generation.
Our thanks to Chris Catney, Oli Kelland, Xilin Dai, and of course to Emma Glass. Now, if you want to know more about standards and innovation management, and about how to get involved in standards, then check out the links in the show notes. And the show notes are also where you can find details of our socials and all the other ways to get in touch with us here on The Standard Show.
You have been listening to an episode of The Standard Show, the podcast that brings you the stories behind the standards, with Matthew Chiles and Cindy Parakill.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.